Just a quick listener note. In this episode, Pat and I discuss leadership principles and team dynamics using two NFL teams as examples based on the games they played the week before we recorded this episode. We talk about the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns, both of which had really good wins 2 weeks ago. However, as many of our listeners probably know, both of those teams suffered embarrassing losses. The Cleveland Browns losing to the Pittsburgh Steelers, giving up only 15 points to the Steelers, but losing 15-10. You think if a defense holds a team to only 15 points, your offense ought to be able to put up a little bit more than that and win the game, but they could not figure out how to produce. On the other hand, the Cincinnati Bengals scored 31 points, but they still lost to the New York Jets 34-31. By the way, the Jets had come into that game with only one win and a quarterback that I believe was bagging groceries not long ago. No one knew his name, and now he's an all-star, or at least that's the way their defense made him look. You think that if your offense puts up 31 points, that a defense could figure out how to hold a team enough to be able to win the game. But somewhere along the line, they forgot how to tackle. And ironically enough, that showed itself in a very controversial call in the Jets' last possession. At any rate, we wanted to just give you that heads up before this episode. We still believe that this is a very good and relevant episode. And we don't just spend the entire time talking about the Browns and the Bengals. There are actually some really good principles in here about leadership and being team players and what that means and what it looks like. So we hope that you enjoy it. Now, on to the coaching life. This is the Coaching Life Podcast, episode 104. 104. Still rocking and rolling here at Ohio University Scripps College of Communication Podcast Studio One. I'm Chris Stewart, and I'm with my podcasting partner and good friend, Pat Martin. How you doing, buddy?
Good, Coach. How are you, man?
Deal. Doing well. Well, I think we've got a pretty good show today. I like saying that. It makes us feel got a good show for you today. I think we have a good conversation ahead of us today, and I think I'm excited to talk about the upcoming game here very soon with the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cleveland Browns. The big AFC, what are they, the North?
The AFC North
game.
Division leading Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah. And so I think we have, we can insert a little bit of our topic, I think, based on some of the characters that are at play among those teams and some of the things that they have been dealing with and such. But I have a quote that I want to read for you, and I'd just like to maybe get your reaction here just to sort of kick off today's podcast episode.
All right.
Here it is.
Sounds good.
The level of energy and engagement that you get from a team is ultimately determined by the level of energy and engagement of its leader.
Yes.
I actually thought about that quote as I watched this past week, which when we're recording this past week's game between the Cincinnati Bengals, or this past week's game that the Cincinnati Bengals played was against the Baltimore Ravens.
Right.
And of course, the Bengals just dominated that game.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And there was a lot of, following that game and the week following that game, there was a lot of, a lot of very positive press and positive, quotes and people who came on podcasts and talked, teammates, Bengals teammates, team members,
right,
who came on and talked and such. And there's been a lot, I remember reading a lot of things related to Joe Burrow's leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And, it causes you to reflect. There are leaders, there are lots of leaders in the world. I mean, you can be made a leader. Well, I don't know that I believe that.
You can be given the title.
You can be given the title leader, but the reality is you're only made a leader if you've got followers.
Very good.
If you've got people that want to follow you,
mm-hmm,
that's what makes you a leader.
Right.
This age of do as I say, not as I do, or follow me because I have the title. It's just, there was probably a day when that worked. And those days are gone.
Yeah, I think so too.
I really believe those days are gone.
Right.
And so, but there are a lot of people who have the title leader in the world. But then you have some that you go, that's uncanny. It's just absolutely uncanny. And, we like to talk about Joe because he's from he's from our town,
Sure.
and he's our guy. But there's something really special there. And you see it. One way you can see it is look at what LSU looked like for 2 years.
Yes.
And look at what LSU looks like now.
Absolutely. Right.
I don't think that's an accident.
What they looked like prior to those 2 years that we're talking about. Yeah, they were predominantly a run first football team. Relied on their defense completely to win them football games, and then Joe showed up and changed the whole the way that offense.
It's amazing to me how quickly
did run.
And I'm a believer. I don't think it's coincidence because he's doing the same thing in Cincinnati.
Yes.
You could basically take what we just said and apply that statement to the Cincinnati Bengals right now.
Yes.
And it's amazing to me. And I think people are still waiting, especially the old diehard Bengals fans are probably. I'm not a diehard Bengals fan. I'm a bandwagon Bengals fan. Right. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, who, by the way, is the best team in the NFL right now.
Wow. Wow.
Do you disagree, Pat?
That they're the best team?
It's hard to say that after
I think I could take
8 weeks.
I could take the
top
field
three.
in that.
Top three.
They're up there. I think they have the ability to win the Super Bowl.
There you go. Top two then.
Yeah.
That's top two.
But they'll have to beat.
They had to beat the Buccaneers to get there.
They have to beat Tom Brady, who a lot of people are comparing Joe Burrow to. Actually,
I tell you, I loved the quote yesterday that I saw. I don't know when he was talking to the press here, but somebody actually mentioned to him the comparison that I believe it was Colin Cowherd made of him with Joe Montana. Did you see that?
I did.
Did you see how he responded to that?
I didn't. So he was talking to Joe. I didn't read that.
He wasn't talking to Joe, Joe was on a press conference. Okay. And a reporter said something you could kind of faintly hear. I don't know why they don't have microphones out there.
I know.
The Bengals press room, it's horrible.
It's across the NFL. That's how they do it. The Browns do the same thing.
Yeah, you got to be able to hear the questions, I think. I know. Because then you have no idea. You got to figure out what the answer means.
From the context of the answer, yeah.
And so
they mentioned Colin Cowherd's comment.
Was it Colin Cowherd? I thought it was.
It was Colin.
Yeah.
Well, Colin said something like he's... What did he say?
He's a young Joe Montana, which means he'll win a lot of games, but I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with a Joe Montana type quarterback in today's NFL. Is it something like that?
Which
Colin
Cowherd just says, exactly. He just says things to get people riled up.
I think there's about 4 people in the state of Ohio who actually respect Colin Cowherd and listen to him.
Right.
Anyway, Joe.
So they asked Joe about it. I didn't know that. I didn't. They did. This.
A reporter asked Joe about the comparison with Joe Montana and how that made him feel. And as the guy's talking, it's hilarious. It's the biggest eye roll. Joe was like that is the biggest eye roll. It'll be on a GIF. Someone will make it a GIF on the internet. and when the question was over, he said, "Slow down with that. Just stop that. Let me be me." And I love that. I love that. Let me be me.
Yeah.
Because I think, as someone who knows Joe, I got a feeling I understand a part of what he meant there. I mean, a part of what he meant is stop with the comparisons, right? Everyone is their own person. In the back of his mind, I'm going to be better. I'm going to be better.
Yeah.
It's going to be my name that people are comparing people to. It's like the old Ted Williams quote, that they took on the movie The Natural. I want to walk down the street and have people look at me and say, "There goes Ted Williams, the greatest baseball player who ever lived." That's the kind of person that he is. And in the context of part of our conversation, I think here today, just talking about leadership and just this uncanny ability to have the people who are under you or really with you, because his teammates aren't under him.
Right.
He might be first among equals, but they're all on the same team. Some of those guys are getting paid a lot more than him.
For now.
For now. For the time being. And but they all want to do well for him.
Yes.
When you hear them talk, they want to do well for Joe Burrow.
Right.
That is weird.
Yeah.
That's a weird type of leadership.
And it's weird because, I think that's natural for the quarterback position. I think, in football, you look to the quarterback to kind of fill that role. But at the same time, there's a lot of, it's not immediate. It's not automatic. It's still something that, you have to earn, basically. It's something that you have to be able to handle, and that's, I think, yeah. Here's the thing. At the beginning of the season, our buddy Lucas Moore, who I'm sure we'll talk to at some point soon.
Lucas is not on the earth right now. He's flying sky high.
Well,
he's on that cloud that we call Cloud 9.
Well, I'm going to say, I don't, I think normally when people say that, it's like you're living in an environment that really doesn't exist. But as odd as it sounds, I think the Bengals are for real, and I say they're for real because Joe Burrow's for real. Yeah, and everyone's noticing right now how big of an impact Jamar Chase is making. Everyone's noticing how much better the offensive line is, and Coach Taylor's calling a lot better games. The defense is playing a lot better, and I would say that's probably all true. But I credit the majority of that to their leader, to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, you said something there. Do you think a defense? Football is an interesting bird because at the upper levels, granted at high school levels where kids are playing both ways and things like that, it's one of the reasons why I think high school football, there's just kids play high school football and they get a taste for that camaraderie and that brotherhood, and they go to college and it doesn't feel the same. Because I think in high school, especially in the smaller high schools, you are playing both ways. You're battling together offensively and defensively, special teams. In college, you got a bunch of different units. And in the pros, you got a bunch of different units. And it almost feels like, I was talking to one of the OU players about this last night, and he said, yeah, it's actually kind of weird how it feels like it's two different teams in a lot of ways. A lot of them, a lot of these guys here play, some of the backup offensive, defensive guys play special teams as well, and even some of the starters do. Yeah. But it's offense and defense. You're not playing both of those. And and it's like, I've gone through 4 years of school and don't even know some of my defensive teammates. Yeah. Guys that are speaking on.
What are we talking about? What is it? Is there 112, 111 players?
Something like that. It's a huge roster. And you're just pretty much working with your unit until you go against each other in a scrimmage-like atmosphere in practice.
Yeah.
Well, bring that back to what you said about makes the defense want to play better. Do you think that? The Bengals defense is playing very well.
They are.
Do you think that Joe Burrow is to attribute to that?
No doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
And here's why. One. Well, there's a bunch of reasons.
Well, I bet he comes off the field after they score a touchdown, and he looks him in the eye and says, "Give me the effing ball back."
Yeah.
And they want to give him the ball back.
They do. And here's the thing. They always know, he's got their back. Right. They know he's able to pick them up, right? And they know they've got a shot to win. Yeah. When you know that you have a chance to win a game.
Winning does a lot of things, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah. Absolutely it does. When you know you have a shot, when you believe in that guy on the other side, and the offense as a whole, but he's driving that, make no mistake. When you believe in that as a defense, and I'd like to bring we got a lot of people that we could ask that question to, but I think it makes a huge difference for the defense to go out to know that they have an opportunity to help their guy, win the football game, and when they know they're in the game, it's a lot easier to play defense than. And
they know that they're going to get credit when they.
Sure,
he gives everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's
Zach Taylor gives everybody. A lot of these coaches do that. That's part of the gig. Give credit where you see it's due.
But there are quarterbacks in the NFL that we've heard from reports.
Sure, we don't know,
and from interviews. We don't know this for sure. But like Carson Wentz, for example. I know a lot of players, the teammates of Carson Wentz, they were never impressed with his leadership style. He was from what I've read, he kind of stayed to himself.
Hands off. Yeah.
He didn't really communicate with anybody else. Didn't communicate when he didn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you can look at the sideline. We've seen videos of and clips of Joe Burrow on the sideline talking to his defense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
I've seen videos of Tom Brady up in the face of guys 3 times his size. Dressing them down. And I'm thinking, holy crud, if that guy wanted to stomp you, he could do it in a second. But there's no way in the world that guy would say a crossword to Brady. I mean,
he's already earned that. Right?
Yeah, that's just a really awesome thing to consider, especially for people who may want that. I want to be that kind of leader. I want to have that kind of respect under me. How can I have that? And I think one of the things that you're seeing there is it's a very simple statement, but I think it's a very true statement, and that is that people don't follow a leader; they follow what they see in a leader.
Good.
You know what I'm saying?
They follow the behavior.
Yes, they're following. So, what kinds of behaviors are occurring that's making people say, "I want to be a better person.
Yeah,
I want to be better than I am." And they would cite one of the reasons is because of that person there.
Yeah,
that person that's leading the way.
Right. And Joe came back from a pretty big injury pretty quick to get back on the field.
Yeah, amazing.
There was. I remember talking to Lucas last year when that happened, and
October was the earliest I thought people were saying initially, right?
Yeah, he was going to miss some games.
12 months.
Yeah, and he made it back for week 1. And I think those are the types of things that everybody on the team, everybody in the organization pays attention to.
Yeah,
and that changes organizations when the face of your franchise is doing things like that. Now, here's the thing. Yeah, we love Joe Burrow, but I think everybody, all the listeners out there of the coaching life know
who you love.
No, we love somebody else too. Coach Cleveland Coulter's dad was giving me a hard time about Baker Mayfield the other night at a football game, but
Baker's not playing anymore.
Baker's not playing anymore. He might play. He'll be playing against Cincinnati though.
Well, let's switch gears here for a second.
Yeah, okay.
Let's talk about one of your guys.
Yeah,
Case Keenum.
He's one of our guys.
I loved what I saw from him. Well, in the game, obviously, dude was an animal in the game that he played coming off of Baker's injury. I mean, he started, so he was prepared. Obviously,
so many lessons to learn from Case Keenum in that football game.
And I think he gives us a hint of how we might be able to learn those lessons in something that he said in response to his performance in that game. When he was asked about, how he got ready so quickly to come in and play that game, it was almost like, what do you mean got ready quickly? I mean, I can read you his quote right here. He said, "I feel very ready all the time. Yeah. I've been ready. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready."
Right.
This is a guy who knows from every day of practice, week after week, he's not going to be the starting quarterback.
Absolutely.
He knows he's not, but he practices and prepares like he's going to start.
That's his
today.
role. That's his role in it. And he was instrumental in a Browns win, a big win, as a matter of fact. 4-3 is a lot different than 3-4.
Yeah.
So,
we're talking about week 7, which is a couple weeks ago when this, from the time this podcast is being listened to or being aired, but still, it should be fresh in people's minds.
Right. And he's made a career out of this. He actually has a very good win-loss record coming off, playing in this role. So he was confident in his preparation. He was confident in, going out and doing, what he was good at doing. But, you got to credit the Browns organization for this too, because Case Keenum played for Kevin Stefanski in Minnesota and actually did a really good job for a season. When Kirk Cousins was hurt there a couple years ago, when Coach Stefanski was calling plays for him, so they brought a guy in and paid him a lot of money. He's one of the highest paid backups in the NFL because they knew he was a fit in their system. He was a fit in the organization and a fit with their coach. So and
he's embraced a role of being a backup who will always be ready to be a starter one day when he needs to be.
Yep. And here's the thing: Jedrick Wills said he's actually it's blowing up because that's what people do, but Jedrick Wills, who's our Cleveland Browns, He's our left tackle.
You said that for my benefit, didn't you?
I always slip and say that, but I try not to.
We'll tell everybody why here in a second. Go ahead and finish your thought.
He's our left tackle, and he said he didn't see a drop off with Case Keenum in there. So everyone's like, "Oh, that Case Keenum's as good as Baker Mayfield." And I think Jedrick Wills tweeted there the other day that he was just saying that Keenum did a good job. He wasn't, stop being crazy. But basically, what you see in that is a guy that not only, I mean, he doesn't have that title of leader, right? He's the backup
You don't
quarterback.
think of him as such,
but that's how he prepares.
he got a followership that
that
day.
Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, he wasn't the only backup that played. There was no drop off in the running game that day
That's true.
from two
Actually,
guys
one of
that
our
are
better
two of the
games
best
this year.
running backs in the league.
Yeah, we were down both of our
Yeah.
running backs, who are two of the best.
Yeah.
And Dearness Johnson, who a couple years ago was on a shrimp boat when the Browns called him and asked him to come try out for the team.
Right, yeah.
He had a.
I liked how you
huge
said
game.
that. You said that like Bubba Gump on a shrimp boat.
I don't know why we always have to talk about my accent on the podcast, Coach. But
Yeah. Well, you remember what I told you when we were texting back and forth during the game? I said, well, these guys are playing for someone's role. You come off the bench, you're going to run a little harder because you might not play next week,
Right.
but you want to play next week.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good level, but getting back to these things that make leaders. Like we talked about Joe coming back from his injury. Baker Mayfield, Baker Mayfield is not playing anywhere near the level that Joe Burrow is, and
I don't think Baker Mayfield's playing anywhere near the level that he's capable of playing.
I don't either. But what I don't know. What I don't know is how consistently he'll ever play at that level, and that's some of the more.
I sense some doubt creeping into your.
Well, I don't have doubt, and here's why I don't have doubt, because I'm going down with the ship, and the reason that I go down with the ship
every year
with the Baker Mayfield ship.
Okay.
The reason I'm going down with the ship is because the Browns were 1-31.
Yes,
when Baker
that's
Mayfield
true.
showed up. So the Browns and the Bengals are not, very different in the paths that they've taken to their starting quarterbacks now. And, Baker's got 6 touchdowns right now. He's got 3 interceptions, very low numbers. But Baker Mayfield has been playing since week 2 with a torn labrum.
Yeah.
Wearing a
He's a tough guy.
Very tough, and those are going. Like, I even wonder if it was best for the team for him to be out there, because there were some games that looked like he couldn't hit nothing. But, he's wearing this harness that, he says doesn't bother him, but everybody else in the league says is definitely bothering. And, they're saying that torn labrum in his non-throwing shoulder is definitely impacting the way that he follows through on his passes and things like that. So, but he fought and fought and fought and, ate it to be able to go out there and play with his guys. And I think that's the type, Colin Cowherd is really good about talking about the bad decisions that Baker makes and the way that impacts the team, and the way that that's one of the reasons he doesn't think he'll ever be a great quarterback. Because
like in the moment decisions?
Or he he goes back to, things like, he grabbed his crotch against Kansas. And that's not
behavioral. Off the field.
And was ran from the cops. I don't know if anyone's seen the video.
I do remember that video.
He got crushed, but just those. He just says, people that make bad decisions are not the type of people you want leading your franchise. And there's value in that. There's validity in what he's saying there, but at the same time, there's growth.
Yeah, there's growth and maturity as well.
Sure.
You can't write people off completely.
No, that's what we do in society now. People make mistakes and they're they're immediately no good forever. And that's not reality. It's not life. And if you go back into history,
I sure hope not.
Yeah, exactly. If you go back into history, there's a lot of great people.
Yes,
that made mistakes, and they came back from them and became great.
Yeah, horrifying mistakes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, I love Baker Mayfield.
Oh, there's my soundbite.
There you go. I do think, for anything that he lacks in talent and in his ability to process and things like that from a football related perspective, I do think he's a leader. And I think, I know that, Myles Garrett, our defensive end, has talked about having a lot of faith in Baker Mayfield and, talking about how he has changed the way that the organization.
Well, there's a guy, speak of making mistakes and bouncing back and being able to bounce back and be a respected, feared and respected member of a team.
It's interesting because no one remembers
Myles
that
Garrett.
anymore, does it? Do they?
No, really. You don't see much about it.
No one's talking
when
about
you
that
see
anymore.
his accolades being tweeted on, after a game, 6 sacks in a game or something like that.
Yeah.
You don't remember him hitting Mason Rudolph over the head with a helmet. And maybe that's because everyone hates Mason Rudolph. I don't know.
People do.
Maybe people don't care.
Even Steeler fans hate Mason Rudolph. But yeah, well, and there was some story to that never was revealed either. But it really doesn't. At the end of the day, you're on the football field.
In the moment,
you hit a guy in the head with a helmet. That's something that you controlled, and you failed.
You have to own it.
Yes.
And but it doesn't mean you can't bounce back from it.
Right.
You can't mature from it. You can't become the player that you're meant to be after that kind of thing. I mean, some people don't ever they go their whole career and they don't ever make that kind of a mistake.
Right.
Right. Can you think of anything that Tom Brady has done? I mean, the deflated balls, maybe.
True. That was a group.
That was a weird thing, right?
Plus, it was I always love how these
it's
leagues
conspiracy.
Well, it's just they close their eyes to it, and then they want to hang the people that are the MLB did the same thing to hitters or to players with steroids.
For some things they do, and some things they don't. You're right.
Yeah,
they did nothing to the Astros.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's true. But if they had to, they would have. If they had to save face, they would have. You know, and if
save
public,
face and save money.
Yeah, right. And so they knew guys were using steroids. Give me a break. Nobody in the Major League Baseball offices knew baseball player. I mean, come on. Everyone was talking about it. Barry Bonds' head was small. Right.
His whole body was small. Everything. His head, everything. Yeah.
But
Canseco really outed. I mean, Canseco had really nothing to win in writing the book that he did,
he's just. I mean, Canseco. He just wants the notoriety. Like he
regardless of how it comes, I guess, because he was out. I mean, he just went after everyone.
Yeah.
I had no reason to not believe what I was reading when I read that book. That was a long time ago. Jose Canseco.
I didn't read that book.
You didn't read it?
I can't read it because the only thing I can think about with Jose Canseco.
I'm not a fan of Jose Canseco by any means, but I feel like that there was a lot of truth that he shared in that book that people chose to turn a blind eye to.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember the ball bouncing off his head.
He gave up a home. He assisted a home run. Yeah.
Actually, though, should that have been a home run or should it have been a ground rule? Because
it's a home run because it doesn't hit. It's not a ground rule. You're a player.
But if he would have caught that ball in the air and threw it over the fence,
yes, it's a home run.
No,
I'll tell you why. I know that.
Are you kidding me?
I was at a game.
If he would have threw it over the fence,
well, I don't know about throw it over the fence, but listen to this. I was at the game. Remember I told you I was at the game where Rob Dibble threw the ball up in the stands? Well, I was at this game also, and some people will remember this game. Eric Davis was notorious for robbing home runs. Mm-hmm. He would go, he would time his jumps perfectly. He's just a phenom athlete.
He was.
Time his jump perfectly and rob home runs if he could reach it. Well, he went up, and I think it was against the Pirates. He robbed a home run, and when he came back, his glove was off his hand.
I could see that being a home run.
And so, it was a home run because the whole glove came out. Well, here's the end of the story.
I remember that too.
In between innings, up on the video board, the Jumbotron, they showed a picture, and it said, when the grounds crew members went out to retrieve Eric Davis's glove, this is what they found. The ball was sitting in the glove. He caught the ball. It just fell off his hand.
Yeah.
The glove fell off his hand. Yeah. Yeah,
Strap that thing on, Eric.
If you, yeah, right. Yeah, pine tar. Yeah. What's the stuff called that they put on there?
Spider tack.
Spider tack. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh boy.
This
is called the tangent episode right here. Yeah. Well, let me. I want to go back and read something to you that Joe Mixon said.
Yeah.
About Joe Burrow as well.
Yeah, Joe Mixon said what I've been saying for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I wonder if we could play this. You think it'd be okay for us to play this? If we
We're not making it.
Yeah, well, let's give. I bet I can play this. This is from Mad Dog Sports Radio, which is a radio show out of Cincinnati, and this is them. I'm not going to be able to get the exact clip of what I want you to hear, but we'll point it out when they get to it. This is them talking to Joe Mixon on their radio show. Here we go.
In terms of his leadership, he seems like an unbelievable dude, great person to be around. What makes Joe Burrow, Joe Cool for the Cincinnati Bengals?
I wouldn't call him Joe Cool. I mean, I'll call him Joey Franchise. To be honest.
Okay, we'll call him Joey Franchise. I like that.
Yeah, Joey Franchise. So, I mean, he came in, day one, and he was a leader. He knew what we needed from him. He know what we expected out of him, and he's exceeded every expectation I've asked of him, and he's only been doing more, and he's growing as a player and a person as well. And I have nothing but high praise for Joe. I mean, he's a great guy, and he's also an awesome teammate to play with, and I love his fire in the game, and he's definitely one of the most clutchest guys that I've ever been around.
I always get a kick out of radio hosts' overboard laughter and overboard voices. It's sunny and 70 degrees in the shitty out here in Cincinnati. Like, come on, fella. Do you talk to your wife like that when you get home? Hello, honey. What kind of day has it been?
He might. Mike Buffer probably does.
It's like those preachers. You ever go to a church where a preacher preaches like that? And I can't even do it.
Are we in trouble?
And then I always want to ask them. So this afternoon, when you're having dinner with your family, do you talk like that?
Could you pass me the
pass me the potatoes and oh boy. Just be who you are, folks. Just be you. I have nothing but high praise for Joe Burrow. He's a great guy and also an awesome teammate to play with. I wouldn't call him Joe Cool. I would call him Joey Franchise.
Yeah, I think I might have said this on a podcast last year that if I was Zach Taylor, I'd go up to Mike Brown and let him know that Joe Burrow was going to throw 15 times a game, and I was going to do that because I was protecting the Cincinnati Bengals organization. Because he is that organization now, and it might get to a point where they can separate from Joe.
You're hoping?
I wouldn't. Well, yeah. I mean, I've been sick to my stomach ever since they drafted
for a battle for a long time.
Sure,
in that
absolutely. I knew it. Well, I knew it when they drafted him. I mean, I said I don't want him. I don't want to play Joe Burrow 2 times a year. I mean, I'm used to the division being difficult.
Sure.
I think it's the best division in football right now. I mean,
Did you hear the Baltimore Ravens fans kind of poo-pooing that big win by the Bengals, saying, "Well, yeah, he beat up defense."
Yeah. No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I don't.
That's just what people do. Fans do.
Yeah. Well,
minimize everything that.
You're welcome, Baltimore.
Yeah. Right.
I don't have anything to say to Baltimore Ravens fans.
I won't even. I'm not going to call them.
Yeah, you better not.
We'll come to blows.
But no, he is their franchise, and I do. I believe that wholeheartedly. Everyone's given praise to the Bengals for drafting Jamar Chase over Penei Sewell. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Everyone was saying you got to get Joe offensive line. You do, and I don't think they did enough to get him offensive line. I think they need to add more. But
and the guys that they have are playing better.
They are. Well,
because,
they did improve,
again,
but they got some guys
I
that
think
came
some
back
of
from
that
injury.
has to do with, right, they got some guys that come back from injury. They got rid of a couple, deadbeats. It didn't seem like they even wanted to be out there.
Well, here's
One
what
in
happened.
particular.
Here's what happened. I mean, let's be honest. Here's what happened. For 8 months, those guys that was on that line heard about how they weren't good enough to protect the savior of the Cincinnati Bengals. They let his ACL get ruined, right? And they're going to ruin him again. You got to be able to protect him. So, and on top of that, he busted his butt to get back to be able to play week 1. He scratched and clawed to get back to him. So now what do you want to do?
Yeah, it's that show. If you're going to lead, if you want people to be their best, then you show them that you're going to be willing to be your best. And well, he has shown that.
Right.
And so it's got to stir in them, combined with the negative press of look what you guys did. It's got to stir in them a little bit. Guys, we got to do better for this dude.
Right.
We've got to do better for this dude.
Yep.
We owe him more. And maybe they didn't feel like they owed a rookie that much. They're carrying out that same culture they've always had. Like, ho hum, I'm collecting a paycheck. I'm here playing the NFL. I got me a nice house, nice car, some gold chains, and I'm going to just do, I'm going to do my thing. And now it's, I want to win.
Yeah.
I want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and honestly, I think, I was going to say, I really don't think the Bengals drafted Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
I think Joe Burrow drafted Jamar Chase.
Do you think LSU wanted to spread it out and throw it all day long?
Exactly.
I don't think they did.
Right.
I think that's what you get with a leader like Joe.
Yeah, and Jamar Chase he's a great player. I remember all them Bengal fans complaining about how he's dropping the ball in preseason, but I don't know how many drops he has now. But
yeah.
He's looking good. But I think he's a great player. A quarterback needs a great receiver like that. That's important. But at the same time, they have a relationship. And Jamar Chase, the best receiver, maybe the most talented athlete on the team, maybe. Maybe. From
All
an
around
athletic,
athlete,
yeah, you know what I mean.
He's certainly the fastest.
He's a receiver. It's a historically a flashy position. It's the guys that get
Hey, look at me.
Hey, look at me. And when you go ask Jamar Chase,
well, you don't feel like that. You don't feel
right.
Those attitudes aren't there.
Well, I'm just saying because he played with Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. So he knows he knows how this is going to go. He knows what he needs to do, and he's going
to get his opportunities.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't think he's worried about that.
And he knows
at all.
that. Yeah. But he also knows.
No, I think he's there to win.
It's why he's throwing blocks 15 yards down the field for Joe Mixon when on a handoff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say that too. One of the big conversations with the Browns right now is the disconnect between Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr.
Did you say one of the big conversations now, as though that's not been a conversation for the past 2 or 3 years?
Well, yes. I think now means...
I said that to you a couple of years ago.
I think now means...
I don't think that guy's a good bring-in to your organization.
Here's the thing, though, Coach.
How'd they play without him last year?
They played great.
Played great without him.
But the players love him.
Yeah, you hear that.
Yeah,
I remember hearing that about T.O. when he was out at Dallas.
Yeah,
that he was a player's friend. And maybe that's true. I don't know.
Maybe it is, but maybe he's just too big. Maybe the persona is just too big, and it's more of a distraction than anything.
Do you not think that a quarterback in the back recesses of their mind think, I wonder where he's at? Is he? I mean, regardless of what your progressions are, take a peek to make sure that he's. I mean,
I think so. I've been told no.
Yeah,
but
I know.
I've been told, but I've seen some really smart football people say yes as well.
Yeah.
So for me, I can't.
Like preferential treatment is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, well,
like
not only that, but you got, if you
feel pressure to get it to him, I guess.
Feel pressure, but also if you're in trouble, your instinct is to say, okay, I've got this guy out there, as opposed to find the open guy. I'm just going to throw it up to this guy because I have faith in him.
Yeah.
Catching the ball. But I don't know.
That's not all a bad thing either.
It's not. No. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But you got to be able to count on it.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I'm not afraid to say this. Odell, to me, really hasn't played that great. I mean, he's dropped. Even this year already.
Yeah, maybe he's not the player that everyone thinks he is.
Right now, maybe he's not. Yeah, and I don't know why that is. But I've seen him lay blocks too.
Sure.
And I mean, I think
they're football players. I mean, if you're not doing that,
I don't know.
It's hard to escape the 1,200 cameras that are out there too. Somebody's going to find you.
That's true. But I don't know. I feel like he hasn't said anything to cause a distraction this year.
Yeah, he's not been in the media.
I don't. I have a hard time putting it on him. But the reason I was bringing it up though is because I think he and Baker Mayfield are really good friends off the field, as is Jarvis Landry. Yeah. And I don't know. There just seems to be a chemistry there between Landry and Mayfield that isn't there between Mayfield and OBJ, and I don't know why it is, but
every quarterback has that with someone.
Yeah,
with one particular.
I think it's important to have it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
for sure.
We talked about how the offensive line may want to do better because they saw how hard this guy that they're supposed to be protecting worked to get back into the game, into play. I think that's one of the qualities of, again, a quality sprinkled throughout our conversation about the Bengals and Browns here is talking about quality of leadership and a particular kind of leadership that just kind of stands out, right? And I think one of those qualities is obviously be an example for the other people around you.
Yes.
But I think as parents, we know this better than anybody. It's impossible to clarify to our children the main differences between right and wrong. I mean, you could try. I mean, like, here's why you should or shouldn't do this. It's hard to clarify it.
Sometimes it's hard to clarify to ourselves.
Well, I was getting ready to say that. It's no different with adults.
Yeah.
And you know why? Because there are no adults.
Because we're all growing.
We're all just grown children. And we all behave. We do. Do adults all know what right and wrong is? No.
Yeah.
Obviously. That's why we have so many problems.
Right.
And that's why teams have so many issues, I think, because, players may think that they are in the right or doing what, working hard or doing what, I'm in the NFL. Of course I work hard. I wouldn't be here. But then you get somebody there in your organization who shows you a different example. No, I'm not just going to tell you. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like.
Yeah.
That is a different level. So you're acting like you as a leader then are behaving in the way that you want your team to behave. And I think it raises their level of desire, their level of passion, especially if you're bringing passion into that as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I go back with, because one of the big things that the Browns have to decide in the next 2 years is whether they're going to pay Baker Mayfield or not a bunch of money.
Well, that's a big decision, isn't it?
It's a big decision because you're thinking about getting top 10 quarterback money, right? Is he a top 10 quarterback? Yeah. Not statistically, he's not. Statistically, he's actually low. I mean, he's at the bottom of the league. But what has he done for your organization? Well, what.
He's given hope. I think he's given a renewed hope. Well, I think Nick Chubb has given, and Kevin Stefanski has given a renewed hope to the organization.
Yeah, and that's another thing.
We have to ask true Browns fans, what's giving you the hope that you've got?
Sure, and one of the other things that we mentioned talking about today was this idea of next man up.
Yeah,
and I think that's true. You have multiple leaders on a team. In an organization, in a program, whatever you're talking about. Typically, you have some primary leaders, but you do have more than one leader. But even in that leadership role, you have to have that mentality of next man up, and you try to stack. That's what you do.
Yeah.
If you're trying to build a nice program, you get a leader to create other leaders. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Baker created Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb has been Nick Chubb, but he is a guy that you can count on. If Baker Mayfield isn't a Cleveland Brown in 3 years, Nick Chubb is.
You can build around him.
You can still build around him because of his for the same reason. No, he's not a quarterback. He's not going to touch the ball every play. However, he's still going to deliver the mentality, the behavior, the example. The example that you want everybody in your organization to to have. And, Jarvis Landry did that too. There's a lot of people that don't think Jarvis Landry's worth the contract that he's had, but I think the intangibles that he brings to the team are just, it's so difficult to argue with. mean, he's been,
Myles Garrett fits that role as well on the defensive side of the ball. When you have 2 or 3 of those,
you're starting to roll.
I mean, I think back to, you're saying Nick Chubb. I'm thinking, oh, yep, Emmitt Smith had that.
Yeah.
Troy Aikman, without a doubt, had that. Michael Irvin had that. I mean, he was one of those prima donna receivers, but buddy, I think he had. I mean, he had that connection with Aikman as well.
Right.
As well as all the. I would say, Troy was a tight end. He found his tight ends.
Yeah. Jay Novacek.
Yeah.
Moose
Johnson.
My favorite memory of Jay Novacek, Coach?
I have a lot of good memories of Jay Novacek.
My favorite, though.
It's probably a bad one.
Well, it wasn't for me. 1991, I think, was the year. Dallas was driving. Time was running out. I think they were down 5. Jay Novacek catches a pass across the middle, extends for the goal line, and comes up about a foot short, and the Cleveland Browns win the game.
And there is no video review.
Oh, he was down. There's clearly down. He just came up a foot short.
Yeah, that's true. I remember that.
You remember that play?
I do remember that.
I don't remember if that was the year or not, but
yeah,
I think it was. I think it was 91.
You might be right.
I think it was 91. I think the Cowboys won the Super Bowl that year.
Yeah, they were.
The year prior. 90.
That would have been Jimmy Johnson's first year. 90 was 90 his first year or 80? No,
I thought it was before that.
It probably was. Yeah.
At any rate, that's my favorite Jay Novacek.
I'm not that good with dates and
I think it was
exact
times.
Man, I tell you, what was your favorite Leon Lett memory? You mentioned Leon Lett.
Did I?
No, I mean, if anyone mentions Leon Lett, it seems like everybody knows what comes to mind.
That makes me cringe.
1993 against the Dolphins on a second field goal attempt. Or no, they got the win on a second field goal attempt. Yeah, they are clearing snow off the field. I mean, look at this.
Yeah, I remember.
And that is in Dallas. They've got their whites on.
Yeah,
they always wear white at home. Yeah, that's.
So what does he do here? I can't remember. Does he run it the other way?
They block the field goal and game's over. Don't touch the ball. Leave it there. Everybody celebrates. Leon Lett goes to try to recover it. He knocks it out of the back of the end zone.
So it's a safety.
Yeah.
But they didn't lose, did they? Or did they lose? Did the Cowboys lose that game?
Yeah, they lost that game.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It ruined my Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Browns haven't played on Thanksgiving, I think, ever.
Yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons I love Thanksgiving so much, because I know I'm going to get to see the Cowboys.
I wouldn't love it because I would be nervous.
Really? See, I don't get nervous because I have nothing vested in the team.
That's completely.
Come back to our conversation about we and they.
Yeah, you're completely incorrect about that.
I don't speak in first person language to teams that I root for, and I told Pat it's because I have zero control. As much as fanatics like to think that they have control over their teams, I have zero control over anything that ever happens with the Dallas Cowboys or the Cincinnati Reds, or I don't even have an NBA team, and so I don't. It's they. For me, it's always they. It's the Cowboys. It's they, and you'll never hear me calling my team that I root for in first person language, speaking of we as though I am part of the team. I know I'm not part of the team.
I think if you would be a Cleveland Browns fan, you might see that
change it differently. Yeah. I hear a lot of Cleveland Browns fans, including themselves, as a team member.
Yeah, we've invested a lot. There's been a lot of suffering,
or better yet,
a lot of pain
as part of the coaching staff. I hear a lot of Browns fans inserting themselves on the coaching staff.
I don't do that.
A lot of Cincinnati fans do that too.
Yeah, I know that.
A lot of fans are fanatics.
Real fans. That's what I'm saying. You're not a real fan.
Real fan.
If you're not, you just said
that. You might be right there. I'm not. I may not be a real fan.
You're just there when
I don't have a jersey.
You didn't want to talk about the Cowboys very much last year.
No. No,
I always talk about the Browns.
Be decent last year until Dak went down. Defense was horrible.
It would have been.
Defense was horrible.
Yeah, it was.
It was bad. They weren't going to go anywhere with that defense. Their offense was still pretty tough, I thought.
Their offense was good. Yeah.
Man, they turned that defense around, though. Gee whiz.
Mike, that linebacker's a stud.
Yeah,
Parsons.
he is. Yeah, he is. Well, and Diggs with 7 picks.
That's true.
Yeah.
Two pick sixes.
It's incredible. Yeah.
That's not going to happen every year.
No, but, it can if you get the right leaders.
Yeah, that's true.
Dak's that guy, man. Dak's got that. Everybody loves Dak.
Or if you have the right
He has
backups.
that. He has, yeah.
The Cowboys were thinking about not signing Dak, and that's the thing. That's why I go back to Baker. I mean, it's not easy. Baker Mayfield's the best quarterback the Browns have had in 20 years.
I wasn't fully on board with that. I mean, what had Dak done?
Yeah,
honestly, you could see this guy's got the potential to be pretty good.
Right, exactly.
But he hadn't done anything.
Base it on. Yeah,
he hadn't won anything with the Cowboys.
You just got to think what he's dealing with there, playing with for son-in-law and Jerry Jones really who's the coach, and Jerry Jones definitely says we when he talks about.
Well,
the
he owns
staff.
the daggone team.
Well, I'm talking about when it's the coaching staff.
Well, he's also the general manager
and the general manager. Yeah, but I've got some Cowboy friends aside from you, and I think they should have re-signed Dak. You can't trust me. These quarterbacks aren't easy to find. So I think
you're right.
I think the Steelers are about to find that out.
They might be.
Brace for it. But although
neither one of their backups are going to lead that team.
Although Aaron Rodgers seems really comfortable with Mike Tomlin, so it wouldn't surprise me at all
to see him make a change.
The Pittsburgh Steelers end up with Aaron Rodgers.
I could see Aaron Rodgers in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform.
Makes me sick.
Boy, look at that division then.
Yeah.
Look at those if Aaron Rodgers, Ben, take nothing away from Ben. Ben's been done. Phenomenal.
Yeah, he's done.
But
he's not the same player.
You put Aaron Rodgers right there. He might actually surpass Lamar Jackson for the best quarterback in that division.
Well, I don't know if I
said that out loud to see your response. You're a Lamar Jackson hater.
Well, was I right?
He got a lot of hate after that loss to the Bengals because did you see? He just walked directly to the locker room. He didn't. Joe, there's like video of Burrow going out there trying to find him to shake his hand, and they're like Lamar was nowhere to be found. He's a poor sport, and
they get crapped on if they
LeBron did that, years ago. Right.
They can't do. They can't
do anything right after the game.
Yeah, you can't, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So, but I don't believe he's the best, and I think his star is going to fade quickly. But he's definitely talented, and he's a force right now for sure. So
he's the best running back on that team.
Oh yeah, I think so.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, but he can play.
He's the best quarterback on that team.
Better.
Too.
He's a better quarterback than I thought.
Right.
Yeah, he is a good quarterback.
Yeah.
He's good. I'll admit it.
Yeah,
and he's a leader.
He's a leader.
He is.
Yeah. Yep. I wrote something down that I want to share with you here before we sign off today.
Before we stop rambling, on tangents.
Well, I think we're talking a lot about teams. We're talking about leaders, and I remember I went back and listened to it this morning because I wanted to share it on our podcast. Years ago, I can say years ago now because I think it's actually been about 4 years ago since I listened to this. I used to listen to a podcast called the Focus 3 podcast with Tim and Brian Kite, and then Brian they're a father-son duo, and they have a organization called Focus 3, and they were the two guys that went in and worked with the Ohio State football team in 2013, 14, 15 when they won the championship in 14, I believe, when Urban Meyer was there, and Urban brought them in, and say what you will about Urban, but he did a nice job in bringing these guys in.
Sure.
And then he took all their credit for all their material and writing his book Above the Line, which it's not Urban's material, it was their material. But
right.
he gave them credit in the book, but you read it at face value, you wouldn't know that. Anyway, Tim and Brian Kite are fantastic. They're really good motivators. They're really good with giving leadership principles. And Tim talked about how every team has 4 different levels of engagement and energy. So regardless of what team, and you can apply this to your organization, to your family, to anything that you're involved in, every team has 4 levels of engagement. There's the cynical level. So I'll work backwards. So cynical would be the lowest. Compliant would be the next to lowest. These are the mindsets.
Yes.
And mindsets of people and their level of engagement involved in the team. So cynical, compliant, and then there's committed, which is okay and good. It's good to have committed people, part of your team, right? But then he said where you want to hope to get to is compelled. Everybody, I mean, if you have a group of people who are compelled to be there, that's awesome. Yeah. That's excellent. And that's what you want to build. That's what you want to build. That's the kind of culture you want to build with your team. And the way that you build that is with your leadership. If your leadership exudes that, then people are going to follow. People are going to want to follow. They will be compelled to be their best. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd agree with that. Maybe I may give Joe Burrow too much credit, but I'm comfortable doing that.
Until you
I'm
see
just
otherwise.
basing it on history.
Right.
You know,
well,
he showed up.
He did it here at Athens High School. Yeah. He did it at LSU. He would have done it at Ohio State, I believe, had he got the opportunity. Yeah. He got hurt, unfortunate. I mean, the media doesn't seem to know that. They think it was just he got beat out of his position. Right. And maybe he did, but it was just unfortunate that he was hurt, which is what allowed...
that allowed the competition. If he wouldn't have got hurt, there wouldn't have been a competition.
Right. Yeah. Right. I can't remember the guy's name.
It was Haskins.
Yeah, Dwayne Haskins. Yeah, he's just kind of disappeared. He's faded. He's a backup. He's a third-string quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. But that's what caused Urban to bring in Haskins at the end of the Michigan game when JT Barrett went down.
Yes.
And he led them to victory. And then when you ask Joe, he says he kind of knew in the back of his mind right then that his fate was sealed.
Yeah.
And so he graduated from Ohio State and decided to transfer and all that. But anyway, he goes to LSU and he brings a compelling reason for people to want to be their best. Gets drafted, has the greatest season that any college quarterback has ever had.
Right.
Wins the Heisman Trophy, gets drafted number 1 overall, goes to an organization where now it appears that there's a compelling reason for the people in that organization to want to be better. And I will even include in that their head coach.
Yeah.
I think there's a very good possibility that a player has made a head coach want to be better.
Yeah. Well, you hear coaches decide where they want to go. Part of that, one of those decisions, the factors of the decision is who the quarterback is. So, I could see that. I don't think that's very far to walk.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. Something Joe's never done?
There's a lot of things. But
one thing
I don't know what you got in mind.
He's never beat the Cleveland Browns.
No, he is not. We'll find out. We'll find out if he can do her.
Not this week. It ain't happening this week.
You'll want to tune in, folks, and hear what our conversation's like next week. Maybe we'll bring old buddy Lucas Moore on next week.
You keep
want to bring Lucas Moore on next week?
Keep repeating that I love Baker Mayfield clip. Just go ahead and just keep it on loop.
Yep.
Because we're going to see it.
Yep. Well, I'm going to have to change it to I love Kevin Stefanski. I do love Kevin
Stefanski, yeah.
I think he's good.
I do too. I think I'm not losing faith in Baker. I think my trust in our organization's growing. And that's huge.
There's a feel there. I think all across the NFL, there's a feel there. People who aren't Browns people, like NFL Network people, right? I mean, people talk differently about the Browns when they're talking about the Browns.
Yeah.
There's a different feel there. It's not like all the old woe is me Browns, right?
Browns is the Browns.
You don't get that feeling anymore.
Yeah, I think there's still people making jokes about it, but I think we are heading in the right direction of erasing that. So
yeah,
and that's about leadership.
It sure is.
It means everything.
It sure is. So let me say one thing, and that is this: if you are a leader, it's going to get messy at times. It's going to get hard. It's going to get difficult. We know that, right? I think the way. If I could give a way for people to be the kind of leader, like if you really truly want to be the kind of leader that Joe Burrow is, or you want to be the kind of leader that these kinds of leaders are that we've talked about today, I think, one, you have to love what you're doing, and you have to love the people that you do it with. You have to there has to be a love there for what you're doing, and I think that if you don't have that love and that passion, it's going to be really hard to lead people at this kind of level that you want to lead them in. And I think what happens is that love and that passion tends to go away whenever it gets messy and gets hard and gets difficult, and people talk about us negatively, and there's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of, just a lot of negativity. And I think that the key to that is, and I think you can see that. I think, to keep pointing back to some of these great leaders. I mean, I would use Joe as an example. I can imagine it was extremely discouraging to have your knee bend the wrong way and know that you're going to be out for a year.
Sure.
But I think when things get messy like that, these kinds of leaders don't let the fire that is burning inside of them get diminished by the frustration that's on the outside.
Sure.
I think while there's a moment of, holy crap, what just happened? I think there's still, turn the page. Okay, the fire's still there.
What's next?
Yeah. What I've got to, that's done. I can't control that anymore. What's next?
Yeah.
And that fire just builds back up again. Then it gets rerouted perhaps. But I think that's one of the keys is just don't ever let that fire that is burning on the inside of you get diminished by the frustration that builds on the outside.
Sure. That's what the fire is there for.
That's a word. Yeah. I mean, that's a word for high school coaches, right? I mean, because in our high school programs are tough to coach.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're especially, not all school districts really support their sports very well.
Sure.
And so, you got coaches that come in and they have a lot of fire. And it gets diminished pretty quick because the resources aren't there. And so what do? I mean, you've got a fire that's burned inside of you, but you can't do anything with it because the resources aren't there, or the people aren't there. And it just find a way. I mean, just keep do what you can and find a way.
Sure.
To get it done.
Good word.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Well, thanks for joining us today, folks, in our celebration of the Browns' upcoming victory.
We'll see.